So I'm Melanie McCool, and I'm here to tell you that even if you feel like you're doing all the right things to mitigate stress, that is, taking the time for self-care, for perhaps using supplements, taking vacations, that if you're still engaging the habits that contribute to the onslaught of stress in your life, then there's no amount of supplements or adaptogenic herbs or any of the above that can actually mitigate that stress, because it's like you are taking a poison remedy while using the viper's fangs as a straw every damn day. And furthermore, if you're still engaging the habits of stress and you haven't recognized what I'm here to share with you today, so 24/7 stress is actually right here. And without actually ditching that, then literally no amount of self-care, supplements, taking time off, relaxing will actually reverse burnout or help you avoid it altogether. I'm Melanie McCool. I'm the entrepreneur's hypnotherapist and peak performance coach. And I'm the founder of Program for Prosperity, where I lead my clients to establish the habits, accelerate business growth without burnout, because I really burned out and total burnout. Now, the World Health Organization talks about burnout in terms of it being a occupational phenomenon, right? So it describes the energy depletion and an overall negativity in the mind, cynicism, resentful of your work kind of thing. And then ultimately it results in lack of productivity. So that's right. But those of us who live through burnout may recognize that there's a whole nother level to this thing that the World Health Organization hasn't really incorporated into its description, because it's not calling it a syndrome of health yet. But if you've experienced or have even, considered that you could be in adrenal fatigue, then you are on the right track. Because my story is in business for more than 20, my daughter will be 22 years this year. And I was just texting with her this morning. So sorry, my heart in my chest is growing. She's all the way out and across the country now. But starting business more than 20 years ago, and I did have a very successful career. Looking from the outside, especially, you would have said, "Oh my gosh, she's got it all," and I did. I became a top 1% earner. I did what it took to be a leader of leaders, and at one point, I was actually earning a residual $1,000 a day. And I was more miserable than ever. And when I say residual, that means that whether or not I woke up, that money would have come into my bank account, right? And that went on for months. And I got more and more miserable. And I didn't understand why. I hope that this speaks to some of you as a warning. Because you might have making all the money is going to relieve those money anxieties. It doesn't. It doesn't fix what's going on here, which is actually hidden, right? So as a miserable, I was really miserable. And at this point, I was working even more because I felt guilty if I wasn't working. So I worked longer and harder because I couldn't be the person who had all that money coming in and wasn't showing the hard work for it. Okay, so that's leaning around the back. I was also getting rid of it as fast as I could. So I would throw lavish parties for my team. I didn't waste it necessarily on status things, because that's not what I value in doing with my money. But I certainly got rid of it fast. And that's partially because, well, there was a part of me that still had a limiting belief is that rich people are jerks. So I didn't want to be seen as a jerk. I wanted to be seen as a generous person that I actually am. All of this is going on. And the signs of burnout were all over the place. I mean, I actually probably burned out in the typical, World Health Organization definition at least 4 times before the major one. But the energy depletion was there. I didn't think I could live without coffee. That's one of the first signs of adrenal fatigue. And I was definitely going down the negativity. I was wrapped in these feelings of cynicism and resenting the very business that I had started to give me freedom to be with my kids in the first place. And so these are signs of burnout. And take it one step further. I hadn't gotten there yet, but the lack of productivity, because it kept going, right? So the stress that I was under, and you may think to yourself, well, yeah, you had a highly successful business sales team to lead. You were stressed. Makes sense. Of course, that's what it takes. No, but this was going on. And so I started to wake up at like 3 a.m. and I did some research on it. And it basically said, well, your cortisol levels are all out of whack. And here's some, and Google's quick to show me, here's some adaptogenic herbs, here's some things that you could do to help your cortisol levels. So here I was taking expensive ones. I don't know if any of you ever gotten that nice big brown bottle of elixir that's meant to mitigate stress. And I was engaged in lots of self-care became my mantra, right? Self-care, taking the time to, make sure that I got the rest that I needed, meditating. This is when I got really heavily into Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. I absolutely adore Dr. Joe. And by the way, while I was meditating, there seemed to be this wall that I couldn't get past, which is actually why I became a hypnotherapist. But all of this going on, and I've even said, I was meditating like a mofo. I mean, serious. I was serious about this, and it still kept rolling over me. So that waking up at 3 a.m. actually turned into full-blown insomnia. And I hadn't had insomnia since I was 13, which and so full-blown insomnia in clumps. Muscle wasting set in, and ultimately, I ended up at the hospital because I thought I had heart problems. And it turns out I was having essentially a panic attack. This is the Airbnb's puppy, excited for something. And when I was at the hospital, first of all, that experience was like, if you've ever gone and just a neurotic, crazy woman, that was what the experience was like. It was awful. It was like, what they told me actually, that was I'd already burned out half my thyroid. So I had pushed through burnout, kept going past adrenal fatigue to burn out half my thyroid. And I had a condition they call hyperthyroidism, a stress disorder. And at that point, I was out. I was taken out of my career because what I didn't mention was that I literally lost my mind. Okay, so the ongoing, unmanaged stress literally changes your brain. Okay, so I found myself unable to think with clarity. Solution-oriented thinking went out the window. The creative in me. Okay, so I even had this saying. I used to say, I still say, that the spiritual gifting of the ability to see the unseen and to pursue until it's done. I think my quote's a little different than that. But ultimately, at that point, I couldn't see the unseen. My brain, and a brain that is under chronic stress, not just my brain, any brain under chronic stress goes into survival mode. Survival mode means you're dealing with the here and now. And there is no creative thinking. There is no future enthusiasm. I lost my mind and my health. And that's when I was taken out of my career. All because I didn't know that you couldn't mitigate this burnout experience with supplements and self-care and meditation. What I didn't know, and what I'm here to actually share with you and make sure that you understand, is that, but only when they're taken in conjunction with a full regimen. And the regimen nearly It doesn't ever involve what I know to be a crucial piece. Now, I work with a functional medicine doctor, and so what I'm going to share with you is that, and I should have known this in some sense, because I've been a wellness advocate my whole life. And I used to tell people you can't out supplement that's what we're talking about. You can't out supplement a raging stress habit, right? So you might think, okay, so then I'll engage in self-care. I'll meditate, I'll breathe, I'll go on vacation, and then I can use supplements and we're okay. Well, almost. But the one thing that's missing from protocols, or it's the thing here that I'm here to help you and to share with you. The one thing that's missing from protocols is the elimination of the ongoing stress. Elimination of habits happens at the subconscious mind. Habits are established in the subconscious, they're eliminated at the level of the subconscious. So eliminating the habits of stress that produce the stress, the overworking, the thinking about your work when you're not working. Have you ever gone on vacation and ruined a vacation because you were thinking about work? I have clients who tell me they literally left. They took their family and left their vacation because they had to get back to work. Habits of stress, really, you will never hear spoken unless you're talking to a hypnotherapist. This is what I learned. The way I bounced back was I worked with hypnotherapy. I learned hypnotherapy. I became a hypnotherapist because the number one cause of 24/7 stress actually lives right in here, and it's in your thoughts. And so if you really want to reverse burnout, bounce back from burnout, never get it in the first place, which is what I highly recommend, then you're going to have the foundation that starts with the elimination of negative thinking, ditching the thinking, ditching the negative beliefs. I mentioned a couple of them here. I mentioned that it takes hard work to make money. I mentioned that rich people are jerks. These are what we call values conflicts. So we work to eliminate those. There's many more that I'll lead you through to identify where yours might be. And when you ditch the cause of 24/7 stress, you roll back those stress habits again. And then, you know what? Then those supplements, well, they'll probably help you to get your hair growth again. And well, whatever else you want to use them for, as long as they're not to just keep yourself from, losing your mind. So I actually give you this foundation, the first steps, the 5-step formula about burnout in my Zero Burnout Business Growth Workshop. And if you haven't already taken that, then I recommend you hop in right now. Get in there and get a better understanding of how and why this all works. On day one, or on their first training, I give you a beautiful way to actually neutralize the biochemistry of stress. So even as you're learning how you can reverse the habits and ditch the negative thinking, give yourself the best stress neutralizing practice ever. That's far better than any supplement you could possibly take. You are the placebo, right? Your body has the ability to create the hormones that neutralize the cortisol. And I give you that in the first training. And so if you haven't already taken my Zero Burnout Business Growth Workshop, I encourage you to do that immediately. I'm Melanie McCool, performance coach. And if what I've just shared with you speaks to you at any level, if you're leaning forward and going, oh my gosh, I didn't know. I get it. I didn't know either. But now you do. And when you know, it's your responsibility to take different action. And so with that, I am going to wish you the most glorious of days. You deserve it. I am actually going to keep going. I can see some Sedona Mountains just over there from my view from our Airbnb. And I am so looking forward to enjoying this completely. And as I take the breaths and I walk on these trails and I take in the sights, I am so aware of how different my body feels, how different my mind feels, my capacity to enjoy has gone up. So absolutely nothing to do with any supplements or anything like that. It's all because I've been doing the work that I help my clients to do, which is to essentially clear that mind, to maintain a level of peace, well, that surpasses all understanding.